Hey, 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 Lions of Liberty fans, this is Felony Friday host John Odermatt. Before we jump into today's show, I got an awesome show lined up for you today. You're going to love it. But before we do that, I want to talk to you about a free market alternative to your standard government-run, government-manipulated, government-regulated medical insurance. Now, this is obviously the open enrollment period that a lot of people, if you have your corporate job, you're picking your health insurance, you're setting up your HSA for next year and all that stuff. Well, there's an alternative to that. And it's great for, if you have a regular corporate job, if you're an entrepreneur, maybe you're a contract worker, something like that. It's a flexible option. It's called Health Excellence Plus. And Mark Claire of Lions of Liberty, the host of our Monday show, recently interviewed the co-founder of Health Excellence Plus. His name's Jeff Cantor. And in this interview, Jeff goes into detail and spells out exactly what it is, how it works. It's an awesome description of this free market alternative to this government healthcare. So you can check that out at lionsofliberty.com/health.
Welcome to Felony Friday, a presentation of the Lions of Liberty podcast. Here is your host, John Odermatt.
Felons, friends, and freedom lovers, welcome back to another edition of Felony Friday, a weekly show right here on the Lions of Liberty podcast. And for those who don't know, Lions of Liberty is a variety show. We have 3 unique shows every single week, starting with our Monday show hosted by Mark Claire, which is a interview show mostly with libertarian leaders. Every Wednesday, we have Electric Liberty Land, hosted by Brian McWilliams. It's a comedy show that also focuses on current events with, of course, that libertarian tilt of analysis on all your current events. And every Friday, this show, Felony Friday, where we're looking at injustice in the criminal justice system. A lot of different formats I have. Today's format is actually one that spans all 3 shows. We do a little thing called Libertarians in Living Rooms Drinking Liquor. And we're going to be talking about, different criminal justice stories, things like that. We're going to be playing America's fastest growing game show, Is It a Crime? And Should They Do Time? I have 2 of my good friends coming on this show to talk about these issues of today, very important issues of today. The show notes page can be found at lionsofliberty.com/FF205. And without further ado, let's get to the show. All right, here we go. And I am here with Nick Pecone and Ben Pangie. Guys, welcome to Felony Friday.
Welcome.
Well, I say welcome. You don't welcome me to my podcast. What the heck?
Just for the record, when you jumped out of there, it said it switched over to my Zoom meetup room. So I don't know who's really welcoming who at this point.
We're in your Zoom now. What? Or is this an alternate reality? Is this am I on your podcast? What's going on?
Literally when it froze, it said, "All right, you are now the host." I'm like, "Okay, I'll be the host now. Whatever." So this is Nick hosting Felony Friday. How are we doing?
So this is your new host for Felony Friday. This is Nick Pecone. He has a little podcast called Sounds Like Liberty, and does the old Freedom Song 365. What else do you do?
I'm going to be honest. Just go to nickpecone.com. That's easier these days. There's too much. Free Market Screen Earth, me and Ben do together.
That's true.
My brother is a cop, so this makes this real fun.
That's Ben Pangie, the Liberty hippie, Homesteads Podcast.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on, man. Just talking pre-show. You're coming up on a year, right? So when's your year?
It's Groundhog's Day. I figured that was a good day to start a podcast, right?
I thought you were referring to like podcasting as like Groundhog's Day.
Well, it is.
Because it is. It's
you never get a break, man. It's like every day you're just yeah.
It's the second best Bill Murray vehicle.
That had something to do with it, I think.
And how long have you been doing Sounds Like Liberty for, Nick?
I mean, it's been
I guess you got your pre-blast off and your post-blast off?
It's been 2 years this month since the first episode actually went up.
Okay.
And then it would be in February, it'll be 2 years since Lizze joined. And then in July, it'll be 2 years from joining the Launchpad. So, been a while. At least 2 years in the minimum.
I wish that I could have the same amount of dedication and, sticking with something and repeating something every week that I do with podcasting with other things in life. But, it's hard to get there sometimes.
Let me tell you.
You have people that hold you accountable, the people that will be angry if you don't show up on Friday, John. So you got to do it.
I know that's
most important because yours is the most important show out of the Lions of Liberty shows. It's not the most entertaining, but it is the most important.
I'll take that as a backhanded compliment.
It's not a backhanded compliment. I'm just an asshole. That's all it is. I don't have the patience for listening to depressed people, and sometimes it sort of feels like
it's an inspiring show, Nick.
It is. It absolutely is. And my wife loves Hallmark videos. To each their own.
You've just compared Felony Friday to a Hallmark video, so thanks for that.
Hey, you're the one that said it was inspiring.
Oh, it is. It is. Not every episode. Some are tragic, but today's episode, I don't know what it's going to be. It's going to be something. We got a bunch of stories to talk about, and you guys dig into a little bit of the criminal side of things on Free Market Screen Earth, right?
A little bit.
Sometimes.
And if we're talking about the things that the government does, which is all criminal, especially involved when it comes to the environment,
True.
We do a lot of that. What was the good one you were talking? Ben sent me the other day about the FDA just ignoring all of the people telling them that talc powder was giving people cancer for decades.
Wait, what is it? What is talc powder?
It's like baby powder. It's like big in cosmetics and stuff like that.
It gives people cancer? Baby powder?
You didn't know that. Yes. Like Johnson & Johnson baby powder.
Yeah, where you been putting that stuff, huh?
That's none of your damn business.
But for what was it, for 2 decades, they were just straight up ignoring all of the third-party people telling them that this is causing cancer, all of the list of individuals saying, hey, this is what we think is linked to the cancer that I got. And they just said, no. The companies are telling us it's okay.
So has there been a settlement or anything with that?
I think it's kind of not. I don't believe yet. I think it's kind of coming to a head. It's only been in the past few years. I think that it's kind of come to light that
the whole
there's serious issues there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting with these settlements with mega corporations, and they're doing the same thing with opiates now. It's basically just they're just paying people off. They're paying off local communities. No one's going to jail or no. Not that anyone. I don't know if anyone really should go to jail. The opioid thing is pretty complicated, but
no, it's not. It's called End the Drug War.
Well, that part is easy. That's
legalize drugs. There's no problem. People get help then.
When it comes to libertarian principles, and we talk about it a lot with it's like a game. If you're going from today's crony capitalist cluster that we live in, if you try to go all the way to libertarian utopia, it's like a game of Jenga. You pull out certain pieces, stuff might get real bad for a little bit, then it'll get better, have to build back up. But the drug war, you pull out that Jenga piece, the tower's not even moving. There might be minor things that might be some minor problem. People in the prison industrial system will lose their job, some things there, but other than that, I don't see much of a downside. Yeah.
What's terrible? I'll be the first. My little brother, I said, is a cop. He'd be the first one to tell you that it's stupid. The entire drug war is ridiculous. It makes his job more difficult. It makes it less safe, and there's just not any reason for it. I actually had a real good conversation with his domestic partner about it the other day when I was visiting them in Florida. And she had some choice things to say about it as well, surprisingly.
Domestic partner?
Yeah, people kept asking them when they were getting married, and they just thought this was easier than getting married, and it would stop people from asking. They kind of did it on the DL just for the insurance.
Yeah, that insurance is a big one.
Well, this is literally like, well, people keep asking us, and we don't want to get married because people continue to ask us. But we do want the insurance benefits, so this is just easier.
Do you get the tax benefit? You don't get the tax benefits, though, do you?
I'm not entirely sure how it works. They live in a state where there aren't a lot of taxes. They live out in Nevada and Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So if you're ever in Las Vegas and want to have a good time, well, go meet my brother. He's fun.
Well, there's lots of ways to have a good time in Las Vegas. So he's a lot of competition. I don't know. That's a pretty bold statement, really.
Oh, from what I remember of college, it was always a lot more fun with my little brother.
There you go. So
he also happens to be a brother in my fraternity as well. I don't know why you joined.
I didn't know you were a frat boy. Yeah.
Tau Kappa Epsilon. I was actually president of a fraternity chapter for a while.
That's why you're drawn to Lions of Liberty. We're all frat boys at heart.
There was a certain element I'm like, oh, I get these guys. Although from what I remember about Penn State's fraternities, you guys are probably a little different than we were where I was at. We were all pretty dweeby.
Yeah, I mean, we were very different than the other fraternities at Penn State. We were like the non-douchebag fraternity. I don't know. I guess it's easy to say that.
Yeah, that's what you say, right?
Probably everyone else thought we were the only douchebags.
I mean, you say that, but Brian was in the group, so I mean, I don't know how much I buy it. But yeah, you're talking about like the environment and kind of the bullshit there. But what's crazy to me is that everyone's worst case scenario is, well, what do you do when there's pollution, or what do you do like when the FD or when the organizations have go out and conspire with the companies and stuff. And the fact of the matter is like, well, that already happens. So the world isn't going to be any worse than where we're at now. The only thing is when that happens, if we're in that situation, we have some type of recourse because we can always have, the civil system where we can sue, the big companies and not have the FDA or the EPA playing, dodgeball with our lawsuits to keep us away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's where it ends, right? The EPA is the one that kind of, we just saw that with anyway, the EPA steps in and says, no, you can't do that. You can't sue them because we already have this under control, and takes the steering wheel out of the private property.
And it's not like they actually do anything to fix it. They just, take a fine, which is just money that they get to keep. So they have, the incentive is on them to, continue to do nothing, let them pollute and just take the fine, which, isn't big enough to actually damage the company in any meaningful way. It's just enough to make it seem like they're doing something. Yeah. It's a good wealth transfer program.
There's a case, I'm not sure what stage it's at, but it's actually, it involves the EPA and the governor of Pennsylvania, Tom Wolf. And I've read an article about it like 2 weeks ago, but it's something happening. There was like a major gas pipeline they built across the middle of the state, built by, I think it was Energy Transfer that built it, which is like one of the largest pipeline companies. And there's investigating some sort of, or I guess it's the DOJ that is investigating some sort of, payoffs or something like that Wolf took somehow. And the EPA was involved in like keeping it hush hush, which does not surprise me at all. I mean, it probably had to do with Wolf directing the pipeline either away from, somebody who favors him politically, who's a, big money Democratic donor, or maybe they wanted it on their property so they could get paid for it. But they're just a tool of the state. I mean, they don't care about the environment.
Well, I don't even think of it as a tool of anything, buddy. Like it's just a program to transfer wealth. That's all it is. Because like I said, they take the money and then, make it seem like they play defense against the population and take a little bit of the company's money for the trouble. That's it. It's a service. It's a service for a private entity.
It's not even like a transfer. It's a destruction of wealth because they're not like enhancing it or investing it in any way that it's going to, they're just crushing. They're just,
they funnel it to their,
Their districts,
their pockets, their wherever their people, and who knows what they do with it at that point. But
true.
I mean, in a sense that all money that goes to the government is a destruction of wealth. Absolutely,
yes.
It's destruction of wealth.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, before we dig into some of these topics here, I see that Ben's drinking something there. What are you sipping on?
This is a Natty Light seltzer.
How is it?
What?
Aloha Beaches. That's what it's called. It's not bad actually.
Wow, that's a great name.
It's as long as it's cold, it's all right. When it gets warm, it tastes like rubbing alcohol. But when it's cold, it's not bad, I guess. It was cheap, and I had to try it, and cleaning out the fridge, and that's what was there.
You just ran out of White Claw, and that's where you landed.
Yeah, No,
is it worth the price? Because I'm sure it's highly discounted from like White Claw, but
are you asking? Is it better than White Claw?
I'm asking like based on because you're paying less anyway, so you're not expecting like to be drinking a White Claw, but like you'll buy it again.
I'd buy this over White Claw any day. Okay. I mean, especially for that price point. I mean, White Claw is same thing. It gets warm, it tastes like rubbing alcohol, and I don't know. I mean, seltzer is seltzer. As long as it's got bubbles and a little fruity flavor, you're all right.
It sounds like you need to start drinking faster if your seltzer's getting warm.
Yeah, but not tonight.
Valid point.
I got a little Southern Tier Lakeshore Fog, a hazy, juicy IPA. So the anti-IPA crowd that we have in the Lions of Liberty Pride is not going to be happy with that.
Well, when I go up to visit family up in New York in the summer, we picked up a mixed pack of that stuff, and I think they had that in there and the New Juice IPA or something. Like it was really good, and I hate IPAs, and if I was impressed, very impressed.
That's all Ellicottville, right?
Say that again.
That's all Ellicottville, Southern Tier Brewing Company.
I don't know.
I think so. It sounds right, and they did open like a satellite brewery in Pittsburgh. So they do like test brewing, like they'll test. It's down on the North Shore. Yeah. It's not far from where you play, Nick. But they actually have a thing. I don't know why anybody would do this, but you can do like a double tour. You can tour the Pittsburgh one, and they get on a bus and drive up to the brewery in New York, and I guess get a tour there and turn around and come back.
I mean, it's right next to Holiday Valley for skiing.
I don't even think it's overnight though. I think it's like a one-day thing.
Do they give you something on the bus? I mean, how long is that bus ride? As long as they give you something to like carry you over and like get you home.
I wonder if that's the thing. Like you get a bucket for the ride.
Maybe that's what it is. Yeah.
It's like just a party bus thing. Drink from one all the way to the other and then back.
Might be nice in the fall. All the
that's guaranteed. Stuff, right? Like 5-6 hours of drinking, right?
I would think so.
Just in drive time.
Don't do it in this time of year. It's stuck in a snowstorm.
I can tell you right now, having driven through Ellicottville in the wintertime, no, definitely don't.
Yeah. So let's dig into some of these stories here. And I mean, the one I sent out.
You don't want to hear about this nondescript alcoholic beverage I'm drinking?
Oh, what are you drinking?
I found a bottle that just has some like Sharpie black cherry vodka on it in my closet. I just started drinking that.
Does it taste like vodka at least? Do you know there's actually alcohol in there? Or
I'm not entirely sure.
All right.
If I run out of it and like I'm not too drunk, there's a bottle of what do you call it? Captain Morgan's upstairs.
Mm.
This is just stuff that I found in my closet because we don't drink very often.
Yeah.
Do you have any shows down in Pittsburgh coming up, Nick?
Pittsburgh tends to all revolve around when the what do you call it? When the Pirates games are.
Oh, so you don't play in the winter then?
We can. We don't have anything booked right now, although my partner needs to get around to doing that. I'm not there to do the booking. But yeah, they don't usually book until they kind of know what Pirate season's going to be. So
well, something's got to attract the people to the Pirate game because it's not going to be the Pirates.
Oh, I used to have a Pirates hat when I was a kid.
I mean, I'm a big Pirates fan, but they just suck.
I hate
baseball
sports,
sucks.
So there's that.
Tune in to Felony Friday this week, where we talk about baseball and stuff having nothing to do with felonies.
Baseball is a felony. That is the biggest waste of my time that I have ever witnessed. I'm telling you, it is like I good Lord, man, go watch the grass grow. It's the same damn thing.
I don't know. There people used to come and watch me run cross country back in the day, which I always was confused by. That's like, why in the hell would you sit there and watch me run through a field? No, go find anything better to do with your time.
Well, in cross country though, you're only watching everybody leaves and then everybody comes back. Like watching golf is way worse than I think anything.
I suppose.
I mean, you can at least gauge form and stuff like on each hit in the stroke. I think all of it's boring. I'm just for the record, I'm just as bored watching football as anything else. So
coming next from Nick and Ben, the Anti-Sports Ball podcast.
Isn't Ben in like the actual Pride thing, like fantasy football with you guys?
I am, and ask me how I'm doing. I'm winning. I'm winning.
It's actually a very sore subject. So for the listeners out there who are like, what are these guys talking about? We're talking about sports. We have in our Lions of Liberty Pride. If you join it by going to patreon.com/Lions of Liberty, you can participate in a thing we call we have a show pretty much every week called Degenerate Gamblers. We're going to talk about random stuff like this and gambling. But there you can participate in a little gambling league that's no real money involved. It's all fake money. And Ben is killing everyone, surprisingly, especially considering that he's a hippie who doesn't wear shoes and
or watch football.
Or watch football. That's probably why he's winning.
There's no way to get thrown off the trail. Like, there's no way to let the propaganda fool you that way.
I'll tank next week.
It's like the most libertarian way to do any of that stuff. You know, you just don't listen to the mainstream media on any of it. Just go with instinct.
Well, that's why, like, when you do like a March Madness basketball pool tournament thing, you fill out your bracket. The people who always win are like the chicks who just pick based on like the uniform colors. It's not. I mean,
Gonzaga. I in high school it was always Gonzaga. Gonzaga would win everything, and they never did. But you know. I had to pick based on name. Yeah.
I just think of Dusty Gonzaga's from Aqua Teen Hunger Force.
You lost me at, I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about.
Gonzaga. Well, you know.
I got Gonzaga. I didn't get
the Aqua Teens.
Yeah, the Aqua Teens.
I forgot you don't watch TV.
See, well, you guys were doing college. I was just watching a lot of cartoons.
Yes, Aqua Teens is a great show, man. Great show.
That was a stripper that Carl had, like, invited over once. Or no, she came over as a plumber, right?
I don't recall specifics. I remember a few things here and there, random things that I remember from those nights. But
I mean, if we just want to talk about is it a crime? How about all the times that me and my cop brother ran from the cops when we were in college? Take it back there.
Is that a crime? Is running from the cops crime? Is lying to the cops crime?
According to the cops, it is.
Hold on, let me kick this segment off properly.
Is it a crime? Should they do time? Or do you think they learned their lesson from a hefty fine? Is it a crime? Should they do time? And since we have to ask the question, is the system down or out of line?
Bam. All right, now we're kicked off properly. So what's the question? Is it a crime to run from the cops, or should it be in a libertarian utopia? Is that the question?
Yeah, for sure.
I guess it depends on the crime. So in a libertarian utopia, obviously it wouldn't be 99% of the things that are crimes wouldn't be crimes. So let's say you go on your neighbor's property and steal something, and your local community police force that you've consented to patrol your neighborhood comes to your house and arrests you because you violated the terms of the contract. If you run away, is that a crime?
I think it would depend on how you're absconding from the police. Are you on foot? Are you in a vehicle? Are you putting other people at danger? If you're in a car and you're going 90 miles an hour and you clip a little kid, then yeah, sure. But if you're on foot and you're just faster than that policeman, well,
just hiding out on various places on campus,
I've always had a big problem with police chases, just overall, like as a tactic. It's the dumbest thing. It puts everyone at risk.
Yeah.
It takes, you have one crazy person can end up killing, 10, 20 other people.
Well,
you get a terrible accident because the police are chasing it.
Well,
Unless
funny
you're
thing
going
you
OJ
mentioned
speed.
that. Up here in Cleveland, one of the big things that they have a problem with is the dirt bike gangs.
Really? That's a thing?
Well, like all the young guys up in the hood, they don't have money to buy like Harleys and shit like that, so they buy dirt bikes, which are obviously more affordable. They're also a little bit more limber, so it's much easier to, say, dodge the police when you can kind of just flip it in somebody's front yard and duck out, get around that way. And there's a stand down order because of it, because the police, essentially, there's nothing you can do about it. You can't chase them. They're the type of vehicle they have is too agile. So there's a lot. I think there's been legislation they're trying to get to make it harder for them to get dirt bikes here in Cleveland.
Oh God, you're gonna need a background check to buy a dirt bike in Cleveland now.
It's a pretty rough neighborhoods, man.
Oh man,
I don't think they'd care anyways. I don't think any of them legally owns the freaking dirt bikes.
Imagine that. I watched a video not too long ago. It was a cop chase of a quad down somewhere in I don't know, the rural South, and they were all over the place, man, through trees in the woods, and it was just forget it. The cops were done. They couldn't go.
Well, that's exactly it. When they can't drive through somebody's backyard.
Yeah.
Tough.
Well, it's not like if during a cop chase, if you drive off the road in someone's backyard, the cops will be like, we'll just let you be.
Well, no, but what can they do? Because you drive down that backyard into the next street, and then you just reverse it the same way you came. They still have to get around that neighborhood back to where you are. By the time they do that, you're already long gone.
Yeah. So on the dirt bikes and stuff, you're more mobile.
Have you ever driven a dirt bike, John?
Oh, so you're talking about no, I have not. So you're talking about on dirt? I thought you were, okay. So I didn't realize you were talking about still on dirt bikes, driving around in a neighborhood. Yeah, I don't disagree that if you're going to get in a police chase, probably the best thing to do is to do it on a dirt bike.
Well, but yeah, so my point was just that they have a standard.
That is not advice. Anyone out there listening, don't take that advice.
Legal advice on Felony Friday.
But that is a good, I think, is it a crime to kick it off? So let's just stick with the is it a crime theme and knock some of these out. So Ben sent a crazy story about in China, which I had not heard of this. I don't know if you guys have been following this or heard of it before, but I didn't know that they were doing gene editing anywhere. I guess they are in China.
You didn't know that's not. There's people in the U.S. that do it in their garage.
Are you kidding me?
Not at all.
It's like those little kids building nuclear reactors in the garage, for the science fair. Same thing.
Whose genes are they editing in their garage?
Dude, I can't get into specifics, but look it up. You'll have your mind blown. Stuff's crazy.
Anyway, so in China, I guess the long and short of it is, not to get too much into the details of it, but I'll post the article on the show notes page. Essentially, there were two twin babies, and the parents of the twins, I think the father had HIV. So in China, that is, there's a big stigma against that. So they couldn't go to normal doctors. Mm-hmm. At least that's what it seems like in the article.
Yeah.
So they ended up going to, I don't know, these are government, some sort of scientist doctors that were, they'll take anybody if they can mutate genes of the baby. So they tried to mutate the genes in order to make it so the twins, infants or twins, they're still, they're not born yet. What's the term for that? In utero?
The embryos in utero, yeah.
Embryos, yeah. But apparently they didn't do it right, and they don't know what damage they did. And there's a whole cover up on when they were born, saying they were born in a different month, right? Than they were actually born, trying to cover up the identity so nobody can track who these twins are.
They're trying to make it difficult to figure out who these kids are so you can kind of follow it, right? You imagine the the stigma and whatnot that's attached with that. But yeah, I think they said they were born in November, and all reports and everything else says that they were probably born in October. You know, and it's, I don't know, I thought it was sort of, it's one of those things that's interesting, right? Like, how is it a crime? Is it a crime to do that, to manipulate someone's genes? And because who knows the repercussions, right? Like, and that was the issue with the thing. The story is that we're not sure of the repercussions. We're not sure what gene mutations may come of this, because, you know, the one that they were aiming for didn't present itself. So they don't know whether or not it's actually worked, but, you know, there may be other things on the side. And so, you know, how do we deal with that? Where does that fall? You know, because they edited these genes, right? They did this when they were embryos. And, you know, that brings in the whole, like, abortion thing, and where does life actually begin, and when is a human? And so I don't know, I thought it was kind of an interesting thing to think about. You know, is it okay to mess with these embryos? And, you know, if it is, then should you terminate them before they actually become human, or what? You know, because then once it becomes human, it has these rights that all of a sudden, you know, we have to acknowledge and abide by. So I don't know.
So you're just taking Mark's advice and trying to make this an abortion debate there, Ben.
Well, that's essentially what it becomes, though, right? Because it's a bit, I mean, yeah, what's the basis for when, who's giving consent? That's what it comes down to. That's when it comes down to an abortion. That's what it comes down to with gene editing of embryos. That's what it comes down to if, you know, somebody's giving hormone blockers to their 4-year-old in order to try to transition them. So, I mean, I can kind of work my way through those scenarios and say, like, I don't know if you guys would agree or not, but I think it's pretty clean cut that somebody giving hormone blockers to a 4-year-old, I would call that a crime, I think. Well,
I always look at this as a first principles case. Is the libertarian philosophy more important than the culture or not? At the end of the day, if the expectation that everyone has to share one culture, then you have to kind of have to default to the libertarian case. However, if you don't believe that everyone has to have the same culture, well, then it becomes a cultural issue.
So just to expand on that, kind of reading between the lines, what you're saying, some people might not get this, but am I interpreting it right when you're saying more than one culture? So you could have a community over here who, you know, they have totally legalized abortion. They might have other things legalized that this culture over here, you know, maybe because it's based on the consent of the community. Is that what you're coming down to?
Well, it's not. I'm not necessarily saying that it's based on the consent of the community. Invariably, that's part of the whole reason that your freedom to associate is so important, because, you know, you're never going to, like, maybe someday you may convince me that, you know, a human life begins at conception. The fact of the matter is, if I don't believe that's life, then that's what I believe. And you're going to have to get into thought crime to force me to not believe that.
Right.
And in the same vein, like, would never presume to make anyone else. That's why I'm always kind of I will always support pro-lifers when they get into a stupid debate with stupid stupid pro-choicers. It's in that if you believe it's murder, you have every right to believe it's murder, and you need to follow that path the way it is. Are you guys going to eventually start a war with the tribe next to you that doesn't believe it's murder, I guess, is the real question.
Yeah.
The one place that I think it does, even more than that, because I think technology is inevitably going to solve that problem, the place that it actually really does have real implications, I think, is actually in the age of consent issue. The fact of the matter is, there are cultures out there where that's perfectly fine. I don't necessarily agree with it, because I didn't grow up in a culture that thinks that's fine. I think having sex with kids is wrong. Mm-hmm. But if all you've ever known is that that's okay, like, are you going to go to war and murder a bunch of people who are raised and indoctrinated with an idea that's different from your own? So, and you may choose to, because at a certain point you have to make that determination. That is what is more important, the libertarian philosophy or cultural bias.
Well, I think to get to the libertarian ideology, you have to sort of do away with your cultural biases, at least to some degree, right? You have to sort of recognize that, I don't know, consent is something, right? You have these natural sort of rights.
That's all based on definitions, bro. What are you using as your definitions? Like, I suppose,
to some degree. To some degree.
Well, everything's based on definitions. I mean, that's our existence, our conversation right now is based on definitions that we're all...
I agree.
That we're all able to communicate, and that you're both not insane, and, well, maybe you are. I don't know.
I wouldn't put faith in that. Either one of us. In fact, this is probably the worst podcast to question whether or not your guests are insane. I'm willing to admit we both are pretty nuts.
There's a strand of that running deep in that.
But okay, so maybe let's get back to the gene editing, because
that's like where it is, right?
I think no matter what, the mainstream culture is going in that direction. So we're going to face that question, right? And what were you going to say, Ben?
Because it brings up that ethical sort of, is this okay? Like at one point, it's okay to, play with these embryos, to play with these cells. And I totally get that, right? That's science. That's how you make advances in science. You experiment with things. But then when it turns into human life, like where do you stop? Where do you draw the line? Where do you say, like, okay, this is not okay anymore because we now have, little baby gargoyles running around.
Okay. Here's a question for you. I'm going to turn this around. So we know what gene cures diabetes, and so you can have your child, and you can have your child born without diabetes, but you choose not to do that because you have a religious belief. I mean, as laws stand now, you could actually probably be have your kids taken away from you for failing to do what could prevent them from getting a life-ending illness.
And I get that. And the thing with this story, even like the guy was trying to mutate the gene that basically makes you, I don't want to say immune to age, but like HIV. It basically prevented them from getting HIV. And so that's what it did. And that's what they were trying to do. And they failed at it. They didn't do it. And so, and there's going to be failures en route to that cure to diabetes. And so what do you do with those failures? Do you let it progress out, or do you? What you do is you look at your contract.
You look at the contract and what liabilities were assigned to who, and that's what you go on. That's all you can go on. Like presumably, if you ask someone to inject your preborn child with a chemical that's presumably going to cure them of some illness, you're going to have something written in there that exempts them from liability from things that could happen. How far-reaching that goes, I don't know.
But as the study of genetics, advances, if you look at like epigenetics, which is how they're able to influence the gene expression without like changing the genetic coding, just by changing the environment you're in. The stresses that people have on them. So, you might go in and change a gene so somebody can't get, or maybe at the time you're thinking they can't get diabetes because we're changing this gene. But I don't think we understand to a point. There could be other things, other factors on the environment that you're raised in that are causing that gene to express itself that way. And it might just work around it. You might end up right back where you are. So I don't think it's as black and white as. No, I'm not even saying that you're saying that. Just wanted to bring that.
Well, I mean, to me, it is black and white because in any case, you're going to enter into this. You have to know that there's ramifications. Like you go and get put on the pill, like there's things that can happen. Like you theoretically could lose the ability to ever have kids again when doing stuff like that.
Yeah, but I guess the question would be your decision, or you and your significant other's decision who are having this child together. Do you have the right to make that decision for the unborn embryo, right? And I would think that's it for somebody who is in favor of abortion. I don't know if you need to get into like what term in pregnancy or whatever. In favor of abortion at all, you're probably more likely to not be opposed to that. Somebody like myself who believes, life begins at conception. If life begins at conception, then that's a separate life right there. Do I have a right to edit the genetic code of that life? I don't know. It's
serious theological question.
Well, no, and this is why I always say this all really depends on which is more important to you. For me, the nap is a stand-in for my religion. Like, I brushed away my Catholicism a long time ago, and I kind of utilize the nap as, how my gauge for what's moral and not moral. Now, if you have something that supersedes that, say religion, that's kind of on you as to how you can interpret that. I think in most of these cases, I always say technology is going to be the thing that actually ends up solving it, because eventually that technology is going to get where the risk is so small that it doesn't matter, because we are going to eventually know more.
Why haven't we gotten there with LASIK eye surgery? That's my question.
What do you mean? Why haven't we got there?
Still, like, people are like split on it. I mean, we've had it for it's been like 30 years. LASIK eye surgery.
People are split on it for political reasons, though, because too many libertarians use it as the example of something that works, that isn't enforced by the government to be regulated.
But if you talk to there's a lot of people that have had terrible experiences with it. Like one of our Pride members, Colin Krieger, almost went blind getting LASIK eye surgery.
And John, you
Joe
can go
Biden
in and
for the rest of your life. And
you can go in and get Botox and have your skin melt off. Everything, there's a risk of some bad shit happening. Like that's you can never get rid of that. Now, you can make the question: is it worth tinkering with something that is so high risk as your eyes? I know plenty of people that have had LASIK, no problems, lots of them. Mm-hmm. Like you have to break down what the actual numbers are on it.
Yeah, I think for me, it's one of those things. Like I totally get, like, as an adult, as a person, as a human, like I can subscribe to all those things, right? If I want to go get my eyes done, I can do that. If I want to do Botox, I can do that. It's just totally other world when you're dealing with an embryo, something that's just cells, right? That legally, doesn't really have rights. And then it's something that, after a given point, has rights. And there's, I assume, if you're going to do some gene editing on it, you're going to bring it into the world as a human being. And, what if you bring into the world something that's totally not, legit, not sustainable, not, it's just a weird thing to think about. I don't know.
It's very weird to think about, but it's coming. It's coming quickly.
Well, I think that's actually, this is why I always say, there's a lot of implications that people don't think about in the whole abortion debate. Because if you do take it back to conception, well, now you really need to start, you're willing to say that that's where you essentially can't make decisions about this thing. Well, that has to have severe implications on how you're able to parent. Because essentially you can't do anything that's going to have lifelong ramifications on this child. Because you've already determined that it's not your place to do any of that. The only thing you can do is something that would essentially keep it alive. Like, that to me...
That's a pretty big window.
Why is that a big window?
Keeping things alive?
That's a huge... I see where Ben's coming from. That's a huge window to me.
No, but if that's the point at which you say that, like, this thing is the only thing that can make choices for itself, which presumably someday it would be able to decide if it wanted to live or not live. That's a choice it could make for itself. You're establishing that the only thing that can make a decision for it is itself. So you're kind of absolving yourself of the legal right to make decisions for it at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to me, there's nothing contradictory in the fact that I kind of don't look at it as being a person. I think that there's a certain something that's going to make you a person. I also don't know that I care about human life in general. So there's that.
Well, I guess my view on it, the gene editing is coming, and probably the best way to influence it, I don't think it's through politics or through making laws. I think it's culturally to try to get people to understand that, because it's going to come down to eventually people are going to be editing genes. I want my son to have blue eyes and to be 6'5", and that's
how do I give my kid a horse
eventually.
cock? That's all I want to know.
So I mean, that's the danger, and then you end up with everyone looking exactly the same,
Well, and we already have a bit of this. Like, this is not something that's in the future. This is something that's actually happening right now. If you look at Iceland and what they've been doing with abortions and Down syndrome,
Yep,
they've brought down their rate of Down syndrome to 0
by killing all the unborn babies.
Yes, exactly. How many other things can we decide? Oh, this is going to be too threatening to the child's life, that too debilitating. That why would you ever let somebody live a life like that?
Well, it's just a progression, Why would you let someone with diabetes live? I mean, they're going to die, right? And then we end up in the freaking
Absolutely
Third Reich again,
Yeah.
See,
it's the old slippery slope.
This child is never going to look like Selma Hayek. Why would you let her live that life? Murder it all.
Yeah.
You're not Brad Pitt. Death.
Brad Pitt's cousin.
So, obviously, we're not going to solve this today, unfortunately. Tune in next week where we solve this gene editing problem. But I just want to move on to a couple. We'll just make this all Is It a Crime today. We won't talk about the other stuff.
All right.
So, another interesting story that I saw, I think this happened in Pennsylvania, actually, and I haven't seen the video yet. I don't know if you guys were able to watch it, but I can imagine what happened from reading it. Is these two guys recorded themselves, posted on social media, abusing a deer. An injured deer is down. They're kicking it.
Yeah,
they're stepping on its throat.
It got shot. Explain abuse, because when I read that at first, I was a little confused. I was thinking we were in Scotland or something, and I just didn't.
Well, did it get okay? So it got shot first.
It got shot.
I don't know if it's hit by a car or what happened. But.
Yeah, they shot it, or somebody shot it, and they came upon it and videotaped themselves abusing it. And by abusing it, they were stepping on its legs while the other one kicked it in the face, and then they grabbed its antlers and tried to drag it around.
Do they know if it was those two that shot the deer, or?
I'm not sure. I would probably imagine. I don't know. I saw a part of the video, and they were both in camo. They had obviously been out hunting. It was the first week of hunting season in rifle season. Rifle season. So I imagine they probably were. But it wasn't. It's not like they were in their day clothes out there. And
well, I will say one thing. This plays right into the hands of the liberal progressive media that thinks of hunters as, these backwoods
scumbags.
People who are scumbags and just shoot animals to leave them there to rot.
It's bullshit, John. So. I guarantee they were Democrats.
They probably were, Nick.
Democrats
probably two Democrats that went out there and got their hunting license and said, "Let's just kick some deer in the face."
So they put a Donald Trump mask on him before they kicked him in the face.
I think the real question is: so how old are these two men that were on video doing this?
One was a minor.
Yeah, so already.
One was a minor. The other was an adult. And then by adult, I don't know, 18 plus, I guess, right? So,
have they apprehended the two? I guess you're the lead correspondent here. But.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they probably have. It's been all over. There's lots of YouTube stuff. Lots of. I think they probably have. Because they're pressing charges, so I imagine if they're pressing charges, they have to have somebody.
Who's pressing charges on this?
Yeah, I don't see any charges pressed.
What? Well,
I mean,
people are trying. Maybe it's in the video. 2 teens now identified by the commission as an adult teen over age 18 and a juvenile teen, reportedly from Brookville, appear to kick the white-tailed buck in the face, step on its legs, rip at its antlers. Okay, so I imagine they do know who it is. I mean, their faces are on YouTube. It doesn't take that long.
So there's people out there who would hear about this story and they would say, well, this is no different than somebody who goes out and hunts deer and takes it home and eats it, and they would look at it as the same way, the same thing. Well, what would you say to someone like that? This
is what I do to like my chickens, my goats, my deer before I put them in the freezer. I kick them and I throw them against the wall.
I knew it.
You know what that does? You know what that does to me?
The person likes to take a dump on them to really make the death as obscene as possible.
Look, that raises the adrenaline level in the animal, and adrenaline doesn't taste good. It makes the meat tougher. It adds bad flavor. That's not what you want to do. If you are going to be eating an animal, that's not what you're going to do. You're going to put it out as quickly and as easily and as efficiently as possible. That's not what these kids are doing.
Yeah. As an ethical hunter, and I've had this happen to me before, where you shoot a deer and you come up on it and it's still alive. It's kicking around. And sure, yeah, you could wait and let it die a miserable death. Which, first of all, even if it didn't affect the taste of the meat, the ethical thing to do is to put it out of its misery as quickly as possible. But just practically, it makes sense to do that too, because it's not good for the taste of the meat that you're going to be enjoying.
But, yeah, I mean, and that's it. Like ethically, and it just boils down. Like just put it out, man. I just had to do a chick like that, like a 5-week-old broiler chick. I had to kill it because it was not surviving. It was going to die on its own, and what's the point? Put it out of its misery. Let it be done.
You animal killing baby chickens.
I know. Let me tell you, man. It's not the proudest day of my life, but it had to be done. And these kids like that, and that's the thing, right? It's stupid. It's stupid. Stupid kid stuff, but
I personally would just recommend going to check out Free Market's Green Earth, episode 11. Animals are people too? ?
They are people, Nick.
But specifically in that episode, we actually get into the whole idea of what you can and can't and aren't allowed to do to animals, and like they have rights. What kind of rights are they? How would you even begin to suss that all out?
It's a big topic.
From a crime perspective, I would say 100% unequivocally, there's no crime here.
No. And these people looking for.
I mean, yeah, maybe not a crime per se in that they should, do any time. But would you? Well, I mean,
I'm going to tell my daughter not to date them or spend time around them if that's where we're going. They're shithead human beings.
I will treat you like you treated that deer.
Yeah, if I had a Louisville Slugger on me, I'd more than likely just take it to one of their heads and be
hold on.
It.
Dial it back a minute. From the article, those charges, right? These are the charges that are going against these kids. Could include unlawful taking or possession of game. All right, failure to wear the required amount of fluorescent
I knew this is where it was going to end up too.
Right? Use of unlawful devices and methods under Pennsylvania's Game and Wildlife Code, as well as violations under the state's cruelty laws. So here we go. We're not even. You don't even care about. It's not about the animal, right? We're going to push charges because, dude, you weren't wearing enough orange. Are you kidding me? Like, where are we? Is this Miami? Like, what's going on? It's ridiculous.
They probably walked back to where they shot from, found a shell casing there. Leaving your shell casings in the woods.
Littering. Yeah.
I mean, do we go and, get rid of every kid that ever, set a cat on fire when they were a teenager? Like, and just get rid of them out of society? Because, I mean, that's where we're headed. I'm not saying we don't tonight, just to be clear. I think that's a tell personally,
is that a large group of people that have put cats on fire?
Yes, far larger than you probably would assume.
But again, it's almost cultural. You talk about cats, man. People down here, cats run wild.
Cats are delicious, man.
There are feral cats all over the place, and people shoot them.
That's why stir fry exists.
In Australia, shooting feral cats is a big thing. That's
For
like
real.
they're way overpopulated.
And so that's okay, right? But here it's a pet. In Korea, they eat dog. And you know what they do to the dog before they eat it? They beat it. Because adrenaline gives you... Well, I won't say it because I try to keep myself...
Wait, Ben, now you're contradicting yourself. On the one hand, adrenaline tastes good. On the other hand, it tastes bad. Make up your mind.
Oh, no. I think it tastes bad, but it's a big aphrodisiac. And I will do that.
So you beat the dog.
That's what a Korean man showed me one time. But... Anyway, so that's but that's cultural.
Can somebody please describe what Ben just did to the audience? I'm sorry.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a screenshot of what Ben just did, and
but it's cultural, and so at some point you have to draw the line. Was what these kids did like okay? No, it's a pretty crappy thing to do. You're a pretty big scumbag if you do that, but is it a crime?
And once again,
No.
let's not forget the fact that we're talking to shithead hillbilly kids that are 16 and 19. He said one
was a minor, and yeah,
described them both as teenagers. One a minor, one not. So at the oldest, the one's 19. And like I said, with all the inbreeding in upstate Pennsylvania, I mean,
whoa, now is it a crime?
No, they can fuck whoever they want to.
I don't think it's a crime. Well, is that a crime? Inbreeding in upstate Pennsylvania?
I mean, there's too much of it to get rid of at this point.
This is ridiculous. So. Are we going down this road? God.
Look, I live close enough to the
Are we
border.
talking brother and sister
people.
or cousin and cousin? Because this is getting ridiculous.
Well, I did in fact go to high school with a kid that fucked his cousin. He didn't know it at the time. He found out
First cousin?
I'm not entirely sure. Close enough that we picked on him.
God.
And just to be clear, that dude had a rough life. Like, life gave him more punishment than we ever could, considering his fiance ended up now married to his dad. He came home from work one day to find his dad in bed with his fiance.
Were they on Jerry Springer?
No, although we've always told him you got to send a Happy Mother's Day card. It's the only real punishment you can give to her.
This actually almost ties back to talking about gene editing, because having sex with a family member, you're going to have a fucked up kid if you do. So
no, that's not. If you really get down into the science
of it,
it's not a myth, but the actual rates at which it happens are pretty small. Like it definitely increases the rate, but not like an astronomical amount.
The smaller the animal, the less of an issue it is. So like rabbits, chickens, etc. Like it's not a big deal. As you get to bigger animals, inbreeding causes bigger issues. So with humans, maybe first generation not too much, but I think you see something, and then after that it just escalates.
Me and you.
Look at the British royal family, right?
Me and John are more likely to have issues with inbreeding than say a tiny little man like Pangie.
Hey, yeah. What can I do?
I'm going to have lots of issues, apparently. Large man, A
lot of people don't know this, but Ben is actually under 5 feet tall. Actually, I've never met Ben in person. He could be 6'5" for all
I am. I have a pair of stilettos. When I drive, I was really upset when they made the yellow pages like online, and I just get this little sliver of phone book now. It made life so much more difficult.
I'm so sorry you don't have much more useful on this episode.
Oh, man. Oh. Should we do one more? Is it a crime? Just a quick one. I think this one will be easy. So, to finish up, a Troy City councilman was charged with a felony, accused of lacing, love that word, lacing his ex-girlfriend's smoothie. What did he lace it with? With a weed plant, as per the article. What does that mean? Could mean anything. Did he take a full weed plant and put it in the smoothie? Probably not. Probably put a little THC in there in some form or another. Mix it up.
No, the worst part is I haven't even read this, but I would love it if it was something where it wasn't even a THC compound. He put CBD
just
in
CBD,
there.
Yeah, isolate. CBD isolate in there.
Just thought she could have a more mellow day. She's been real stressed at work. Put it in there to help her kind of be a little more even keel throughout the day.
Maybe.
And then
maybe he was scared for his life. What if he was scared for his life? What if he needed to give her some CBD so she wouldn't like stab him in the chest because she's just that high strung?
So it doesn't say how old he is, I don't think.
No.
She was 17.
Well, so I was just thinking about that. He's charged with acting in a manner injurious to a child under 17. And then it goes on to talk about committing the act in front of a 10-month-old. So are they calling the 10-month-old that child under 17, or is this his fiance or whoever it was?
I don't know if you can tell by the article itself, but it wasn't the most
it wasn't clear.
Researched.
So I after college I lived in Troy for 2 years, and it is a wonderful, wonderful place. Let me tell you, it ends on it was on the Erie Canal, and back during Prohibition when they made everything illegal, that was kind of where everybody went to hang out because it had everything going on, and it hasn't cleared up. So lacing, I don't know. I love Troy. It's a wonderful toilet of the state.
So is it a crime? Is it a crime? Lacing unknowingly? Well, let's just say, I mean, they didn't really give us details. Let's say it was a THC product. Let's say it was enough to affect her mentally. Is it a crime?
I don't think that actually matters.
Go on.
Because there's a lot of harm that could cause just by, to say it was just a standard weed plant. He ground up some weed and put it in there. Something happens at work, they have a mandatory drug test. It may not have affected her at all, but if that shows up on her piss test, she can lose her job over that. It doesn't have to even affect her to cause harm.
Yeah, good point.
That's and I think that's where it boils down to is what are the effects of it? Are there immediate effects? Does she crash her car? Are there immediate like later effects where she loses her job, or she is operating the forklift at the back of the grocery store and stabs somebody?
Just to be clear, the minute I see under 17 in this article, the first thing I'm going to tell you is she didn't file this. Her parents did. And that's why it doesn't look more researched than it is, because they can't put her name in there because she's a mother.
And it's an ex-boyfriend, so it's probably someone that the parents hated. And
yeah.
So she didn't. That's a curious angle.
And she was
she didn't report it.
She was telling a friend. Yeah, she told a friend, and her parents got wind of it. It's like this one time I was living with this dude, and he was a sex offender because he was banging this girl who was underage, and like her mom got jealous, and like because he wouldn't throw it in her, she filed the rape charge.
Western New York, upstate Pennsylvania. Here we go.
Yeah, yeah. No, a guy I used to live with. He was a sex offender, and he'd actually gotten it from, he was having sex with a 16-year-old girl. Now, granted, it was disgusting because he's way too old to be doing that when he was doing it. But as white trashy as our world is, the whole thing stemmed from the mom of said underage girl got pissed that he wouldn't throw it in her. And so she actually went and filed the charges out of revenge.
Wow.
You say wow, but man,
it's not.
It doesn't surprise me. I'm not saying wow because I'm like shocked. I'm just saying wow because that happens.
Pillhead's gonna be pillheads. That's all it sounds like to me.
So do we? I think we all agree. Do we all agree that this is a crime? I mean, this is a violation of one's rights to put something in their drink unknowingly that could detrimentally impact them in some way. I mean, it could be like failing a drug test, losing your job, things like that.
It's definitely a crime, but to what degree? I think.
Yeah, what's the punishment? What should be the punishment for something like that?
Make him take it.
Well, I would actually ask how do the charges have to be brought about? Like, can the parents bring this up on someone? Like, does it have to be the person that was actually, had the chemical induced into them?
I don't know. We're building this libertarian society right now, Nick. We're building it brick by brick. So you tell me.
So no, it's.
Well, then we're putting the weed in the water.
Anytime somebody forces you to put something in your body, it's a crime, and that includes the state. And I'm going to say that and leave it there. But yeah.
But I mean, if the kid does, if the person that actually imbibed the chemical doesn't have an issue with it, I mean, it's a crime, yes. But they're the ones that are going to have to press charges?
But it's not a force. Like if you don't have an issue with it, it's not really forced, is it?
No, it's a surprise, I guess. Is there a difference between a surprise and being forced to do something? Is it just if you like it or not?
I don't mind some surprises.
Well, I think that wouldn't be forced then, because if you like find out about it, you're like,
sex and rape?
You're like, actually, I was totally okay with that.
Yeah, I found out I was. You know, I had my dad tell me stories about when like he used to have like PCP laced weed and he didn't know he was going to take.
Oh boy.
This should be, you know what? I'll tell you what. Let's do this. Let's end the show right here, and we'll do 10 minutes of real quick bonus.
All right.
All right. So real quick before we sign off, Ben, you go first. Where can people find all your stuff?
Homesteads and Homeschools.com. Go there, and that's where it is. Homesteads. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it there because I'm gonna trip over my words. Thank you.
All right, Nikki P.
I just go to nickpecone.com, NICKPECONE, and that'll take you to all the stuff I do, which at this point is just too much crap for me to even bother give out the URLs.
All right, from Nikki P, from the Liberty hippie Ben Pangie. That rhymes. That's nice. Wee. Good branding. This is John Odermatt signing off. Always remember to keep your head up and the fires of liberty burning.